The Zorathian collective arrived quietly at first, slipping into Earth's orbit with the confidence of a species that had done this many times before. They were a powerful alien civilization, known across the galaxy for taking resources from young planets that lacked the strength to resist. To them, Earth was just another weak world, full of water, full of life, and completely unable to defend itself. Their massive extraction ships descended through the atmosphere like dark shadows, spreading across the oceans. The people of Earth watched in confusion, then panic, as these giant machines pierced the water with long metallic arms. The Zorathians did not speak, did not negotiate, and did not warn anyone. They simply began taking what they wanted. The ocean surface trembled as the extractors pulled hundreds of millions of tons of water into storage tanks. Entire waves changed direction unnaturally. Fish scattered in fear. Storms formed instantly around the extraction points, lightning flashing in the sky as if nature itself was screaming. Beneath the surface, the drilling arms reached deep into the seabed, breaking through layers of sand, rock, and even forgotten ancient structures that had been buried for thousands of years. Cracks spread along the ocean floor like spider webs. Some of these cracks reached fault lines that had not moved in centuries. Suddenly, Earth shook. Coastlines around the world were hit by waves that towered higher than any human had ever seen. Cities near the ocean felt the ground tilt under their feet. People ran as buildings collapsed, cars flipped, and roads shattered. In a single day, more than 7 million humans died. Families were swept away by violent floods. Entire towns disappeared under huge storm walls. Airports, harbors, and coastal defenses were destroyed in minutes. People screamed at the sky, calling for help, begging for the ships to stop, but the Zorathians continued harvesting as if humanity's pain was irrelevant. Humanity tried to fight back. Nations launched missiles, drones, and warships. But the Zorathian shield systems were far beyond anything Earth had ever built. Human attacks bounced off harmlessly, like pebbles hitting armor. The Zorathians did not even bother firing back, they simply ignored the humans completely, confident in their superiority. Earth's government sent desperate messages to the Galactic Council, the governing group responsible for keeping peace in the galaxy. They explained the destruction, the deaths, and the invasion. They begged for protection, justice, or even a warning message to the Zorathians. But the Galactic Council responded coldly. They said Earth was not recognized as a member of the Council. They said the Zorathians had only committed a resource extraction violation. They issued a fine. A fine so small, the Zorathians paid it immediately and kept working. To the galaxy, Earth became nothing more than a sad example, a cautionary tale. A young world that had suffered because it lacked political recognition and military power. The news spread across hundreds of star systems. Other species shook their heads, some feeling pity, others feeling relief that it had not happened to them. But while the galaxy looked away, something else was happening deep beneath the waves. In the darkest trenches of the ocean, the cracks made by the extractors reached something old, something that had slept for longer than human civilization had existed. Under layers of pressure and darkness, a strange network of crystal structures began to glow faintly. These structures were not natural. They were not human. They were ancient, far older than anyone suspected. The breaking of the seabed allowed energy to flow again through these crystal networks. Pulses of light spread across the ocean floor like veins waking up after a long sleep. The water around them began to vibrate softly, responding to this new awakening. Humans near the coasts noticed strange things happening. The tides moved in patterns that made no sense. The waves seemed to hesitate, almost as if they were thinking. Animals in the ocean behaved differently. Whales sang long, deep tones that had never been heard before. Dolphins gathered in tight groups near the surface, staring at the horizon as if waiting for something. Scientists recorded unusual readings from the ocean, heavy electromagnetic pulses, unexplained energy waves, and changes in water temperature that moved like living shapes. Some thought it was leftover effects from the extraction machines. Others believed it might be a new natural disaster forming. But something far greater was stirring. Beneath the glowing crystals, a consciousness, vast, ancient, and powerful, opened its eyes for the first time in ages. It sensed pain. It sensed death. It sensed the oceans being wounded. And it sensed the humans crying out in fear. The ocean itself began to whisper. Not in words, but in movements. Small waves carried messages across the seas. Pressure changes echoed like heartbeats. The deep currents started to shift, as if preparing for something. Though humanity did not yet understand it, they were no longer alone. Something in the ocean was waking up. Something that remembered the birth of the planet. something that did not approve of the destruction happening above. And it was rising. Dr. Sarah Chin had barely slept in 3 days. She sat inside the Oceanic Research Center, surrounded by glowing monitors that showed strange readings from the deepest parts of Earth's oceans. She kept replaying the same data over and over: energy pulses, rising temperatures, shifting currents, and something else she couldn't explain. It all started the moment the Zorathian extractors cracked into the ancient seabed. At first, Sarah thought it was just an after effect of the alien drilling. But the more she analyzed the signals, the more she realized something impossible. The ocean was responding like a living organism. Not with random movements, but with structure, pattern, and even intention. Every few hours, massive pulses of energy traveled from one deep-sea trench to another, like a heartbeat. Whales and dolphins changed their migration patterns overnight, forming tight clusters over certain underwater ridges. Sharks began swimming in synchronized circles near the fault lines. Even the smallest fish behaved unnaturally calm, as if waiting. Sarah stared at her screens, whispering to herself, "What are you?" While she worked, Earth was collapsing emotionally. News broadcasts showed endless tragedy: ruined coastlines, drowned cities, families searching for each other, and governments arguing about how to respond. The Galactic Council kept repeating the same message: Earth was not under their protection. Humanity felt hopeless. But in the ocean, hope was growing quietly. Late one night, as Sarah studied deep-sea scans from the Mariana Trench, her screen suddenly flickered. The energy pulses she'd been monitoring suddenly aligned into a perfect geometric pattern. Not random. Not natural. Intelligent. A circle. Then a spiral. Then a shape like an eye. She froze. Her breath caught in her throat. The pattern expanded across her screen, glowing brighter until it filled the whole monitor. Then, without warning, every computer in the research station shut off at once. The lights dimmed. The air seemed to vibrate. Sarah stood slowly, heart pounding. The water tanks around her, used to store deep-sea samples, began to ripple even though nothing touched them. The ripples gathered at the center, forming small peaks, then collapsing again, almost like words being formed in water. She backed toward the exit, but then the ripples slowed, smoothed, and formed a clear shape: a hand. A hand made of water, flat and gentle, as if asking her not to leave. She swallowed hard. Her instincts told her to run, but something deep inside whispered that whatever was happening was not meant to hurt her. The water hand dissolved, and the tanks went still. Then a voice, soft, deep, and layered, spoke inside her mind. Not with sound. Not with language. But with pure meaning. "I am awake." Sarah stumbled against a table, gripping its edge tightly as the message washed over her. She felt the vastness behind the voice, a presence so enormous it made the entire planet feel small. It was like the ocean itself was speaking. Her heart raced. Who are you?" The answer flowed through her like a wave. "I am Theosa. I am memory. I am the oceans. I have slept since the beginning of life. I rise because you are hurting." Sarah's breath shook. The voice was ancient, but gentle, like a parent comforting a wounded child. "You're alive?" she whispered. A soft pulse of warmth filled the room. "I am life and the keeper of life. The ones above have torn my skin. They have taken what gives breath to your world. They have drowned your people. I feel their pain as if it is my own." Tears welled in her eyes. She'd spent days watching disaster footage. Now, hearing the grief in Theosa's voice, the tragedy felt even bigger. Sarah steadied herself. Why wake now? Why not earlier? Another wave of meaning came. "I sleep when the world is safe. I wake when balance dies. You called to me, your fear, your sorrow, your will to live. I felt you more strongly than I have felt any species before." She covered her mouth, overwhelmed. Humanity had cried out in pain, and something ancient had answered. Theosa's presence filled her mind again. "You are different from the others who walk the stars. You care for your world. You care for each other. You cry for what you lose, and you fight for what remains." Sarah wiped her eyes. "We tried to stop them. We couldn't." A deep rumble passed through the station floor. Not threatening, comforting. "You are not alone now. I will help you." Sarah stood straighter, something she hadn't felt in days rising inside her: hope. "How?" she asked. The water tanks lit up with faint blue glow as Theosa showed her visions. Oceans shaping themselves into ships. Liquid metal forming armor. Water bending like steel. Humans breathing underwater, merging with the ocean's power. A fleet unlike any weapon the galaxy had ever seen. Ships that were alive. Ships that could shape themselves. Ships that could protect. Sarah gasped as the vision ended. You can create that. We can create it. You and I, humans and oceans together. But I need your guidance. I need human minds who understand love and loss. Will you help me? Sarah didn't hesitate. Yes, she said softly. I'll help you. Theosa's presence warmed. Then rise, child of the land. Let us save your world together. Outside the station, the ocean waves rose slowly, glowing with faint blue light, as something powerful began to awaken beneath the surface, no longer sleeping, no longer silent, and no longer willing to let Earth suffer alone. The next weeks changed humanity forever. Word spread quickly about Dr. Sarah Chin's discovery, but most people didn't know the full truth. They only knew one thing: the oceans were changing. The waves moved with strange rhythm, glowing at night with soft blue light. Deep-sea currents shifted violently, then became calm again, like a giant breathing beneath the water. But inside the Oceanic Research Center, Sarah knew exactly what was happening. Theosa was growing stronger. Every day, she communicated with Sarah, sometimes with images, sometimes with emotions, sometimes with clear thoughts. Sarah learned that Theosa didn't speak in words, but in meanings. When Theosa was angry, Sarah felt a burning pressure in her chest. When Theosa was curious, Sarah's mind filled with fast, swirling images of distant worlds and ancient memories. Humanity reacted differently. Some feared the glowing waters, calling it another disaster. Others prayed to it, believing Earth itself had awakened to protect them. Scientists were confused, governments panicked, and leaders argued endlessly on television. But Sarah worked quietly with a small team she trusted. Theosa taught them how to communicate with ocean matter, how water could behave like metal, how it could store energy, how it could shape itself when guided by a living consciousness. At first, it sounded like fantasy, but then Sarah witnessed the truth with her own eyes. The first demonstration took place in a sealed research tank. The water inside began swirling slowly, then rose upward like a column. It hardened, forming a thin, shimmering blade. Sarah touched it carefully. The blade felt like steel, cold and solid, but when she stepped back, the blade softened, returned to liquid, and dropped back into the tank. It listens, Sarah whispered. It's alive. Theosa's calm voice filled her thoughts. It listens to those who listen to it. Humans who feel deeply, who protect, who dream, you are the key. Sarah shared this with her team, and soon volunteers arrived from across the world. Not soldiers, not politicians, ordinary people with strong hearts. Divers, doctors, engineers, sailors, scientists, and even rescue workers who had lost everything to the floods. Theosa welcomed them all. Each volunteer stood barefoot at the ocean's edge. Sarah watched as the waves touched their skin, softly at first, then rising higher, wrapping around their ankles, then their legs. The waves glowed, pulsing like gentle heartbeats. None of the volunteers panicked. They felt no fear, only warmth. The water began whispering to them. Not with words, but with a deep connection. They felt emotions that weren't their own, ancient patience, sadness, memories of storms and sunlight, the birth of life itself. Many volunteers cried quietly. Some fell to their knees. When the water finally released them, they stepped back changed. They could sense the ocean's moods, the pressure of deep currents, the movement of distant tides. Some claimed they could feel emotions from whales miles away. A few even said they could hold their breath underwater for much longer than before. Sarah took notes, her mind racing. They are bonded, she said. Not fully, but enough. Theosa agreed. They are seeds. With time, they will grow. With guidance, they will become protectors. Then came the biggest moment, the creation of the first living warship. It began at a remote cove controlled by the research team. Dozens of volunteers entered the water, standing waist-deep while Sarah monitored Theosa's energy patterns. The waves around them thickened, swirling in powerful motion. The water pulled itself upward, forming a rising spiral like a huge pillar. It grew higher, solidifying as it rose, glowing brighter as layers of hardened water, denser than any metal, wrapped around a forming core. The structure curved smoothly, taking shape like a long, sleek creature. Wings extended from its sides. A transparent dome formed near the top. Ridges along its body pulsed like veins. In less than an hour, an enormous vessel floated silently above the water. A living ship. It had no weld lines, no screws, no engines. It pulsed with energy, responding to Theosa's thoughts and the volunteers around it. When Sarah touched it, she felt comfort, calm, and strength flowing into her arm. "It's beautiful," she whispered. A volunteer beside her smiled weakly. "It feels alive. Like it's welcoming us." Sarah nodded. "Because it is." Theos's voice echoed within all their minds. "This is the first of many. A child of the oceans. A defender of the world. Together, we will rise." Over the next days, more ships grew from the water, some smaller, built for speed, some larger, built for protection, some shaped like winged creatures, some like armored beasts. Each one was unique. Each one responded to human pilots who bonded with the ocean. It was the birth of the Oceanic Fleet. When the first formation hovered into the air, glowing silently over the waves, humanity felt something it had not felt since the disaster began. Hope. The galaxy had ignored Earth. The Zorathians had stolen its oceans. Millions had died. But now the oceans had awakened. And humanity was no longer weak, no longer helpless, no longer alone. For the first time in history, Earth had power the galaxy had never seen. Power that flowed like water. Power that lived. Power that would fight. Commander James Hale stood on the shoreline, watching the Oceanic Fleet rise into the sky like a flock of glowing creatures. Each ship pulsed with soft blue light, its surface rippling gently like calm seawater. They looked alive, because they were. James had been one of the early volunteers. The ocean had touched him, listened to him, and bonded with him. Ever since that day, he felt the tides inside his chest, as if a second heartbeat lived within him. When he stepped into the water, it moved to greet him. When he felt anger, the waves rose. When he felt calm, the sea quieted. He was chosen as the first commander not because of rank, but because Theosa trusted him. Sarah approached, carrying a datapad full of new readings. Her expression was serious. "We just received a distress signal," she said quietly. "Another planet was attacked. Their oceans are gone." James's eyes hardened. "Zorathians again?" Sarah nodded. "It's the planet Aquos. They tried to resist, but they had no way to fight back." Theosa's voice resonated gently in both their minds. "They are suffering, as you once suffered. Their waters cry for help." James looked up at the sky where the living ships hovered. "Then we answer." Within an hour, the Oceanic Fleet assembled, 30 ships perfectly aligned, their surfaces shimmering under the sunlight. The volunteers took their positions inside organic control chambers, where the ships connected directly to their thoughts. No buttons. No screens. Pure instinct. Sarah stood beside the main vessel, the same ship grown during the first awakening. "Are you ready?" she asked James. "No," he said honestly. "But we go anyway." The ship rose gently, lifting James into the air. Around him, the other vessels followed, forming a spiral formation above the clouds. The oceans below rose slightly, releasing them, as if the sea itself was giving them a gentle push into the sky. Then the fleet vanished into space. Traveling with Theosa's power was nothing like human technology. There was no loud engine, no shock, no acceleration force. The ships moved like currents, folding space around them. Stars blurred, distant systems passed in moments, and within minutes they arrived at the Aquos star system. James sucked in a sharp breath. The planet was dying. 3 oceans had already been extracted, leaving giant dry scars across its surface. Massive Zorathian harvesters were still operating on the last remaining sea. The sky was choked with dust and smoke. Fires burned across the continents. More horrifying was the sight of millions of Aquosian bodies floating or lying scattered along empty shores. A species with gentle, water-based biology, soft blue-skinned people with large black eyes, now reduced to corpses drying in the sun. James felt pain echo inside him, as if the ocean within his chest mourned with him. His ship pulsed in sympathy. Theosa's voice filled the entire fleet. "They took life. They took home. They took memory. They took balance. We will stop them." The Zorathian warships finally noticed the fleet and turned to face them. Their metallic hulls gleamed sharply under the dying sun, and they moved into attack formation. A broadcast crackled through the speakers. "Unregistered vessels, identify yourselves. This is a lawful extraction under Galactic Resource Code." James cut him off sharply. "You murdered billions. There is nothing lawful about this." The Zorathian commander laughed. "Billions? Resources don't matter that much." James felt every volunteer grow angry at once. The oceanic ships responded instantly. Before the enemy could fire, the first living ship surged forward. It moved like liquid lightning, twisting around plasma shots, reshaping its body in mid-flight. It collided with a Zorathian cruiser, dissolving part of its hull with concentrated water pressure, then reforming into its original shape. Another ship unleashed a wave of hardened water spikes, piercing through shields like they were paper. The Zorathians panicked. Our weapons aren't detecting them, how are they moving like that? They are phasing, phase detection failing. Shields collapsing. The living ships moved with emotion, anger, and unity. Whenever a volunteer felt fear, the ship hardened. When they felt courage, the ship accelerated. The fleet didn't fight like machines, they fought like a single creature protecting its young. Meanwhile, on the planet's surface, Thiosa extended her power downward. The last remaining ocean of aquos began to glow, pulsing with the same blue light as Earth's awakened waters. The sea lifted upward, rising into the sky in massive columns that circled the harvesters. Zorathian workers screamed as the water coiled around their machines like giant serpents, crushing metal and tearing apart extraction arms. The ocean reclaimed everything that was stolen. Within 30 minutes, the entire Zorathian operation collapsed. The last enemy ship tried to flee, engines burning bright, but it didn't get far. A living ship caught it, wrapped it in liquid metal, and dissolved it into harmless dust. Silence settled across the system. The Equation survivors, those hiding underground or trapped in shelters, looked up in disbelief. They had watched their world die. Now they watched strangers defend it with the very power that had abandoned them. James opened a communication channel. His voice was steady but heavy with emotion. To anyone watching, we came from Earth. We were victims once too. But we rise now, not for revenge, but for balance. You are not alone. He released a message buoy into orbit. It glowed brightly, carrying the truth across the galaxy. And from that moment on, the galaxy knew. Earth had changed. The oceans had awakened. And humanity was no longer the weak species everyone believed they were. The battle was over, but the healing had only just begun. Sarah floated above the surface of Aquos in a small shuttle, staring down at the ruined world beneath her. The last surviving ocean glowed faintly, pulsing as Thiosa extended her energy into its deepest layers. The water responded slowly at first, then more strongly, as if remembering what it once was. Aquos wasn't like Earth. Its oceans were softer, more delicate, more easily wounded. The people who lived here had always relied on harmony rather than strength. They had no weapons, no military, no technology that could defend them. Their entire species had simply trusted the galaxy to be fair. And the galaxy had failed them. Sarah understood their pain in a way few others could. She remembered Earth's screaming waves, the panic, the destruction, the impossible loss. She remembered what it felt like to see children swept away by walls of water, entire cities swallowed by the tide. She remembered helplessness. But she was not helpless anymore. The shuttle touched down on a narrow strip of land, one of the few remaining places not completely destroyed. A group of Aquosians approached cautiously. Their bodies were tall and graceful, with translucent skin that shimmered like liquid crystal. Their large dark eyes were full of fear but also hope. James stepped out first, raising his hands to show peace. "We're here to help," he said. A soft ripple passed through the Aquosians, like a wave spreading across a calm lake. One of them stepped forward. Her voice was watery, musical. "You heard us." "We heard," Sarah answered. "The oceans called. And we listened." The Aquosian leader bowed her head. "Our world is dying. Our people are dying. Why would you help strangers?" James exchanged a glance with Sarah. She responded gently, "Because we were once like you. Alone. Afraid. Abandoned." She paused as a memory flashed behind her eyes, the day she and Marcus stood in front of a broken ocean, unsure how to move forward. "But something changed," she continued. "And now we share that strength." The Aquosian leader stepped closer, touching the surface of a shallow pool that formed near her feet. The water reacted instantly, glowing brighter in Thiosa's shade of blue. The leader's breath caught. "What is this?" she whispered. "A gift," Sarah said softly. "And a warning." The Aquosians looked confused. "The Zorathians will return," James explained. "They don't stop. They don't learn. They don't care about laws or what they destroy." He pointed upward, toward the stars. "They will see this defeat as a challenge. They will come back stronger." The Aquosians lowered their heads, dread sweeping through them like a cold current. "But," Sarah said firmly, her voice lifting them again, "you won't be helpless next time." She stepped forward and knelt beside the glowing pool. The water rose like a living ribbon, wrapping around her wrist. The Aquosians watched with wide eyes. "Thiosa is awakening your ocean," she said. It remembers what it once held. It remembers its strength. The leader hesitated. But can we control it? No, Sarah said honestly. Not control. But you can bond with it. Learn from it. Protect each other. The Equosians whispered among themselves, their harmonized voices echoing like distant whale song. Meanwhile, above them, the oceanic fleet remained in a defensive orbit. The ships pulsed in rhythmic intervals like a heartbeat protecting the planet. Inside, volunteers rested, meditated, or spoke quietly about what they had witnessed. Marcus stood on the command deck of the second flagship, staring down at Aquos. "We're doing the right thing, right?" he asked quietly, unsure if anyone heard. Theosa answered him directly inside his mind. "Balance must be restored. Help them remember. Help them rise." Marcus exhaled slowly. "I hope they're ready." Below, Sarah and the Equosian leader walked along the remaining coastline. Everywhere they stepped, the ocean brightened, glowing with newfound energy. Fish that had disappeared years ago began to appear again. Small, shimmering creatures that had gone extinct during the extraction. The Equosian leader gasped softly. "It's bringing them back." "The ocean remembers," Sarah said. "Every species, every shape, every sound. Nothing is truly lost." "But will it save us?" "That depends," James said. "Can you learn fast enough? Can you bond with your ocean the way we bonded with ours?" The Equosian leader looked toward her people, tired, scared, but full of desperate hope. "We will try." "That's all we need," Sarah replied. The ocean surged again, stronger than before. A deep blue glow spread across the horizon, traveling like a wave of light. It reached underwater trenches, flooded old scars, and flowed into dry seabeds. The ocean was waking. James received a transmission in his earpiece. "Commander," a crew member said. "We're detecting movement at the edge of the system." James stiffened. "Zorathians?" "No, something bigger. Multiple signatures. Unknown origin." Sarah looked up sharply. "They're not alone?" James shook his head slowly. "No. Someone else is coming." They all turned toward the sky as faint lights appeared, distant ships entering the system. Whether they were enemies, allies, or something far more dangerous, no one knew. But the galaxy had just started paying attention. The unknown ships grew brighter as they slipped through Aquos' outer orbit. From the planet's surface, they looked like falling stars, silent, steady, and unsettling. Sarah watched the lights from the coastline, her heartbeat quickening. James raised his wrist console, scanning the incoming signatures again just to be sure. "Still no identification," he murmured. "Not Zorathian. Not Council. Not any known trade or science fleet." "Could it be pirates?" one of the Equosians asked nervously. "No," Sarah said quietly. "Pirates don't travel in formation that perfect." Above them, the ships arranged themselves into a wide circle around the planet, slow, deliberate, and almost ceremonial. Marcus' voice came over the comms from orbit. "We're preparing a defensive stance. But, they're not charging weapons." "Not yet," James muttered. The Equosian leader stepped closer to Sarah, eyes wide. "Do you think they are here to finish us?" Sarah shook her head. If they wanted to destroy Aquos, they would have fired already. But she wasn't relaxed. Not even a little. The ocean at their feet sensed the tension. It shivered with a glow, rising and lowering like slow breathing. Theosa's voice echoed in Sarah's mind. "Do not fear. Listen first." Sarah took a deep breath. "Okay." A beam of soft light shot down from the lead ship, touching the sand in front of them. It formed a tall, swirling shape, neither solid nor liquid, shifting between forms like mist held together by will. James instinctively stepped in front of Sarah. "Don't get closer." But the ocean disagreed. A wave rose behind them, not threatening, but guiding, pushing Sarah gently forward. The Equosian leader gasped in surprise. The water itself wanted this meeting. Sarah stopped a few meters from the glowing figure. It slowly shaped itself into something humanoid, long arms, tall posture, but still made of shimmering particle light. When it spoke, its voice was layered, echoing like it came from several beings at once. "Children of the blue world," the entity said. "We are the Nalith." James whispered, "Nalith? I've never heard of them." The figure tilted its head. "Few have. We do not join wars. We do not interfere in the affairs of those who feed on destruction." "Then why are you here?" Sarah asked. "For them." The being pointed toward the Equosians. And for the one who carries the ocean's echo. Sarah stiffened. You mean Theosa? The figure nodded. The ancient one. The first tide. The Aquosians looked confused, trembling. What is Theosa? Their leader whispered. The figure's voice softened. Long before your people walked on land, long before the Zorathians learned to tear stars apart, the ocean's birth guardians. Sentience born from pressure and silence. But almost all faded when galaxies turned violent. Sarah swallowed. But one remained. Yes, the Nalith replied. Hidden. Sleeping. Waiting for the world that would understand her. James whispered, Earth. You awakened her, the Nalith continued. And now she is awake, she will not sleep again. The Aquosian leader stepped forward timidly. We do not want war. We want to live. That is why we came. The Nalith extended a glowing arm, and a projection formed, stars shifting, paths converging, threats moving. The Zorathians gather. Not to punish. Not for resources. Sarah felt a cold knot in her stomach. Then, for what? To erase what they fear, the Nalith said. They have seen what Theosa did to their destroyers. James clenched his fists. So they want revenge. No, the Nalith's voice grew darker. They want to end anything that supports sentient oceans. They see water as a threat now. Aquosians gasped. Even Sarah felt a chill. They plan a galaxy-wide cleansing, the Nalith added. Any planet with water capable of awakening will be targeted. Earth, Sarah whispered. Aquos. And others. Hundreds, the entity said. Too many to defend alone. Silence fell. Heavy. Crushing. James broke it first. Then you're here to help us. Yes, the Nalith said. But not in the way you think. The being stretched its hand toward the ocean. Instantly, the water surged upward in a twisting column, not violent, but powerful, ancient. Theosa's presence filled the air like a voice without sound. The Nalith spoke directly to her. First tide, your time has returned. The galaxy remembers you. The oceans know your call. The ocean pulsed. A wave spread across the planet, glowing blue like a heartbeat. The Aquosian leader gasped, placing a hand over her chest. I feel something. Like the sea is speaking. It is, Sarah whispered. It wants you to rise. The Nalith turned to Sarah again. You carry the bond. You can teach others what was lost. But I barely understand it myself, Sarah admitted. You understand enough. The Nalith ships above shifted formation, preparing to jump away. Where are you going? James asked sharply. To warn the others, the Nalith said. To prepare the worlds that still sleep. The light around the figure dimmed, but its final words were clear and heavy. When the great tide comes, meet us at the rim of silent stars. The great tide. Sarah echoed. Yes, the Nalith replied. The war the Zorathians have feared for centuries. The figure dissolved into mist. And the war you must lead. Sarah's breath caught. Theosa whispered inside her. The galaxy is changing. And we must change with it. Above them, the Nalith ships vanished into the void, leaving behind a planet waking, a people trembling, and a future filled with rising tides.